This pandemic, this viral infection, will maybe get us thinking and waking us up and making us pay a little bit more attention to the impacts of our conduct. Hopefully this can be a reset. That's what I hope. My name is Gene Baur. I'm the president and co-founder of Farm Sanctuary. I've been doing advocacy work since 1986 when I started investigating factory farms, rescuing animals. We now have sanctuaries in New York, in California, and we continue working to change our food system. Since the 1980s, Farm Sanctuary has rescued animals from abusive situations, in some cases taking living animals off of piles of dead animals. We've worked to heal these animals from their maladies, and we've seen lots of disease in the food industry, and in fact, have argued that diseased animals should not be used for human food. And so it's something we've been concerned about for a long time, but the industry has not generally wanted to look at these diseases, including things like mad cow disease, because if they find it, it causes significant economic consequences that they would rather not see. So, I think the industry to a large extent has taken a don't look, don't find approach to diseases, which could potentially affect human health as well. In terms of what is known, there's a lot we don't know. These are pathogens that are emerging. They are new pathogens. So, with coronavirus, for example, it's a new strain. And right now, scientists are really trying to get a handle on it, trying to develop a vaccine for it. But besides coronavirus, there are other new viruses, new pathogens that emerge. And these are more likely to emerge in stressed systems, whether they're factory farms, where you have animals confined by the thousands in warehouses, where they're fed antibiotics routinely and you have antibiotic resistance that develops, or in more wild spaces that have been decimated when ecosystems are destroyed and genetic diversity is lost. You have more stress and a greater likelihood of disease. Today, the Center for Disease Control says that 3 out of every 4 new emerging contagious pathogens come from animals to people. Historically, there have been numerous instances where humans have succumbed to illnesses that started in animals. So this is sort of a normal way. We live on the planet with other creatures. We share the same earth, we share the same air, we share, in many cases, the same microbes. And they're constantly evolving and mutating. And I think when we create a stressful, unhealthy environment, we're more likely to create situations that are imbalanced, and then a pathogen can start running amok without being checked when you don't have diversity. And I think in this case, with the coronavirus, when we had a more diverse natural ecosystem, there were more species and more diverse places where these various bugs could reside. And when there are fewer and fewer other species, humans become the host to pathogens like this. And I think that's what we're seeing now with the coronavirus. So diversity is very important biologically, but I would also say that it's important culturally for us to understand different approaches and to have different approaches. And factory farms are the opposite of diversity. They select for narrow production traits, animals to grow fast, cows to produce a lot of milk. And they've lost enormous genetic diversity in agriculture. And then with factory farms, we cut down diverse forests and ecosystems to plant monocrop corn and soy with specific production traits that go with petrochemical inputs, which creates this extremely unbalanced, unhealthy system. And in that system, you can have pathogens that emerge that become resistant to some of the petrochemical biocides that are being used, and then can become extremely potent and problematic. So diversity is important, and we're losing it with a factory farming food system that's become so normalized around the world. Well, in the United States, it's over 95% of the animals that are raised are in these factory farms where they're treated like commodities, not like living, feeling creatures. And unfortunately, that system of production is expanding around the world. We have tens of billions of farm animals raised and slaughtered in factory farms every year. There was a survey of diversity, biodiversity on the planet. And they looked at mammals, for example, and found that 96% of the mammals on Earth are either human beings or domesticated, mainly farm animals. Only 4% of the mammals living on Earth are now in the wild. And I think that's an indication of just how this system is causing so much harm. And in order to feed farm animals, we are destroying rainforests, we're destroying other natural ecosystems to graze animals or to grow corn and soy and other crops to feed animals. We could feed far more people with far fewer resources by eating plants directly instead of growing plants, harvesting plants, feeding those plants to animals. In the US, 10 times more land is used for animal agriculture versus plant-based agriculture. And that same sort of tendency is spreading, and ultimately it's very inefficient. So I think when we act in this way, we destroy larger parts of the planet. And so that's where these risks occur, I think. I think we need to critically evaluate these systems and recreate new ways of living and producing food that are not so harmful. So I think there are small pockets of good things happening. I think government programs should stop supporting industrialized animal farming and start shifting their resources towards supporting transitions into a more sustainable, plant-based, diversified, community-oriented food system. And you can sometimes do this online, and they have pickup spots at farmers markets. So I think voting with our dollars to the extent we can and supporting local businesses that exemplify the type of food world we want to create is something we can do today and I think always. And then over time, though, we do need to be involved in the political process. We need to create new business models that are sustainable, plant-based, instead of extractive factory farming models. And so for folks who have land or who have the capacity to start developing these new models, I think that's great. If we can create mutually beneficial relationships, it's good for everybody. So I guess that's really the main thing, is that we are all connected, and cruelty to others oftentimes comes back to hurt us, whereas kindness to others usually comes back in a positive way for us. And just as cruelty can be contagious, so can kindness. For me, the big question is, if we can love well without causing unnecessary harm, why wouldn't we?